Okay, well, I appreciate everyone's attendance and response. I just wanted to do a 6-month update in terms of where we are in the Beloit Police Department. As a follow-up to our 120-day report back in October, and where we've continued to progress on enhancing leadership, strengthening community relations, and transitioning into modern-day policing tactics. In terms of enhancing leadership, our assessment and recruitment team completed their work on a new recruitment video. It's based on the law enforcement officer's role as a guardian versus a warrior. It's a really great video. I think it's inspiring. It's going to draw a lot of people into the Beloit Police Department, and it's in keeping with the new philosophies in community policing as outlined in the President's Task Force on 21st Century Policing. You can go to our website, the Police Department, and click on the YouTube icon to view the video. We recently got approval to hire 4 new officers. They'll be getting sworn in early January. And we have interviews going on this weekend to fill hopefully the rest of our remaining vacancies. In terms of training, all sworn personnel have now been exposed to the concepts of procedural justice and legitimacy, another cornerstone of community policing philosophy, and a complete section in the task force report. It's again a large cultural shift in how law enforcement views itself and how it views its responsibility and engagement with the community. We have 10 personnel who have been selected and will be attending the IACP, the International Association of Chiefs of Police, Leadership and Police Organization Training in 2016. There's 5 courses offered across the state, so we kind of split up those 10 personnel so that they can attend that 3-week leadership course. We're partnering with the Wisconsin Department of Justice to bring in some more training on child interviewing techniques. This is a specific skill set that's necessary for investigators and officers to adequately interview child or juvenile crime victims.
Chief, hold on 1 second. Someone's microphone just fell down.
Oh, that's okay, Steve.
No worries.
Okay, how's that? In terms of transitioning to modern day policing practices, we have instituted a brand new promotional process. Again, we have a couple of 2 potential sergeant vacancies that will occur early in the year. And the process is based on community policing philosophies in the 21st Century Report. So all of the different tenets of that process will revolve around the officers understanding those concepts and putting them into action, both in terms of essay-type material, tabletop exercises, and then a panel interview. So that's, again, a complete change from the manner in which we used to run a promotional process. So we're inculcating, those new modern-day processes and techniques into the promotional process. We've added some new equipment and policy changes in our evidence unit. We have instituted the use of scanners so that we know our chain of custody is accurate and we can have a much more effective tracking of our property that's taken into the department, and we have a property receiving system in place. In terms of strengthening community relations, I've done a number of things in the past 60 days. Attended a whole bunch of meetings. We had a citywide Block Watch Captains meeting, which we were able to provide all those neighborhood leaders with updates on what's happening at the police department and what their future role may be in helping us grow community associations and block watches. We hosted 2 community symposiums, one at Merrill Elementary and one at Hackett Elementary, 2 different areas of the city in which we've been really focusing our efforts to engage the community and address issues of crime, fear, and disorder. I was honored to attend the Vets Roll event at Culver's and pay tribute to our many veterans in Beloit. And in concert with that, we partnered with the Rock Valley Community Association and their homeless veteran program. It's part of the federal program to house homeless vets. So we've established a contact within the police department to be that go-to person with Rock Valley and start to address our homeless veteran issues here in Beloit. I also attended a couple of other different meetings, long-term strategy type of things, intervention for youth with a number of service providers across the city to try and identify gaps in our system that don't address juveniles at a particular age and try and keep them out of trouble, steer them on the right path, provide them some mentorship and guidance, as well as an event that talked about the proposed legislation for the driver's bill, and that really tries to address the gap for immigrants who cannot get a driver's license. And our baseball card project, that is moving ahead with the Boys and Girls Club. And that's a really nice partnership with them. They are in the process of signing on a photographer who should be underway in January, and we'll have all of our sworn personnel on a baseball card. Within that, we'll have our new vision and mission statement and our core values on the card. The officer can pick the value, talk about their personal message on the back of the card, and then these will be handed out to youth in the community in attempts to, again, kind of build that bond and those relationships. We're continuing to partner with the Department of Corrections in our parolee roll call program. To date, we've done or had over 20 parolees attend our roll calls, meet the officers, in establishing some base of a relationship, both in terms of assisting them with reintegration and adding some additional accountability to those persons that are new to our community, having gotten out of prison. And then a really big hit that you'll all love is the social media, right? And that's just blown up. If you've been paying attention to our social media site, we're at 10,000 followers on Facebook, 1,000 on Twitter. I mean, it's really just exponentially increased our ability to reach out to the community, our ability to solve crimes, and we've solved a number of different crimes and had a lot of really quick responses. We had that hit and run incident on the west side where the little boy was hit on the bike, and a whole bunch of responses on that. And the kicker to all of that is a lot of people called in and said, hey, I think it's this person. And they kept calling even after we had talked to that person. So we kept working on it, and we found out that actually, yeah, they were right, it was that person. That person had seen the Facebook posting and attempted to disguise their vehicle to elude identification, but ultimately that individual confessed to being the driver and was arrested. And most recently, the fraud case, where the folks from the Rockford area were arrested really within hours of the Facebook posting. Within hours, we went from we don't even know who they are to we have names and in custody, and they're currently being extradited out of Winnebago County back to Brock County. So that's kind of an overview. As you can see, we continue to work very diligently. Everyone here is working as hard as they can to keep the department heading towards success, making improvements, and identifying future opportunities. Happy to take any questions.
What's the environment like on the force? Are we seeing a lot of positive energy? What are the officers?
I think the morale is much improved because when you start having success, and when you start, cops want to find the people that are committing crimes, the people that are causing issues in our city. And so when they get the support and they get the tools to do that, they're pretty happy about it. And you start to feel pretty good about that, and there's that intrinsic sense of pride, not only for them, but it makes the department look good, it makes our profession look good. So I think, by and large, everyone's very happy about that.
I have some questions about the shooting death of Jose Antonio Ortiz, who was shot on the 1100 block of Bluff Street in October. Have any suspects been identified in that case?
No.
Can you say whether or not it's related to the road dog incident?
It's possible. At this point, we haven't been able to solidify that, but that's a possible connection.
Chief, how far along are you when it comes to modernizing or getting the police department up to what would be comparable 21st policing expectations? How far along are you?
Well, I think we're in the beginning phases, as really every law enforcement agency is across the country. This report came out in May. As you go through it, and we've distributed to our command staff and all of our supervisors, so everyone has their own copy. And so as you start working your way through it, you identify things in there that you are already involved in. And so you're kind of in line with those practices, and then you're noticing things that you could do that you aren't doing. So, it's a progression, and the task force report is really kind of a high-level roadmap for agencies. I think each agency is different based on size and community concerns. Some of the recommendations rely upon funding from the federal government or certain agencies, or the creation of more task force or committees to do that. So I would say we're in the beginning stages, and from the perspective of integrating it into the department, moving along pretty quickly. I mean, our first sergeant promotional process, we instituted this as a part of it.
Is there any resistance within your department to, you know, these changes, this transition?
Outwardly, not that I'm aware of.
Are you in a sweet spot right now because the hearings haven't begun?
I don't know if you'd call that a sweet spot or not. I would call that on the bubble. Yeah, I don't know.
Are they still on paid leave?
Yes.
You highlighted several different updates and changes within the department. Is there one specific big change that you feel has really moved the department in the right direction within the last 6 months?
Well, I would say just, I think, reinstilling from the officer's perspective the sense of urgency with which they have to do their jobs and the sense of significance and importance that their job entails. I really got the initial feeling early on that a lot of them were in a position where they didn't think what they did mattered. And so they could really go out and do their shift, turn in some citations, and go home, and they had met the mark. And that's not nearly enough, and that's not anywhere close to what we should be doing when we're out there. And I think now they're starting to get that, they have that sense of pride and urgency back.
You mentioned that you're also renewing the recruiting video. What other measures are you taking to kind of promote joining the police force?
Well, the assessment and recruitment team that we put together, we talked about a little more in the previous meeting, has a whole new task and set of functions. They have outreach across Illinois and across Wisconsin, specifically targeting colleges, high schools, and specifically trying to bring diversity to the department. So it's really engaging in those kind of activities. We have reached out to our community associations, including the NAACP, and said, hey, you know, what can we do to, you know, identify diverse candidates that want to join the police department? So we've been reaching out all avenues to try and do that.
Have those road dog suspects, the Torres, Bota, and Padilla, have any of them been located?
One of them was arrested on a warrant, and 2 are out.
Which one was arrested?
I'd have to check for you and let you know. I don't remember. I believe it's Padilla, but I'm not positive.
It's been reported you were a finalist for position out in Green Bay. What does your future look like? Are you ready to go? Do you want to stay here?
Well, my future is making sure that the Beloit Police Department continues on its successful course. I think we need to obviously work through the commission hearing and see how that pans out, and then decide from there. So it's really hard to say what the future is.
Have you applied for any other jobs?
No.
What has the response been from the community with, you know, these changes within the department?
The response from the community has been very positive. We met with a number of community leaders. We have them involved in our assessment processes. We've been involved community person in our sergeant promotional evaluation interview panel. So we're getting a lot of good support and a lot of communication.
Beloit seems to have a high number of shooting incidents for a community of its size, but I don't know, Turtle Tap shooting in August, Taco John's parking lot in September, the Ortiz in October, and then some shots fired near Roosevelt in 11. Is there anything being done to address just the shootings?
Well, we address all of our crime in a proactive fashion, as aggressively as we can with the resources that are available. So every one of those is investigated. I think to the extent that we've solved a lot of our crimes this year, including one of the homicides from last year, that's an improvement in our approach to investigating and solving crime. Some of it relies on the cooperation of witnesses, suspects, victims, etc.
So what's the change?
I think the change is actually that we're trying to clear the crime, that we are making, again, taking a sense of urgency in investigating them. We have added, we try to add as much as we can in terms of resources to our investigative branch. We've added a crime analyst so that we can better evaluate and assess our crimes and the links and the associated suspects. And we've increased our relationship with the district attorney's office in terms of making sure they have what they need from the reports, from the investigation, so that they can actually prosecute a case.
What's the, do we have any stats on crime rates or crime stats at all in the last 6 months since you've been here?
Yeah, I can tell you as a comparable, this time last year to this year, our violent crime clearance rate is 6% higher from January through September of 14 compared to January through September of 2015. So we have a 43% violent crime clearance rate, so that's your homicides, aggravated assaults, robberies, and sexual assaults. So we're seeing some benefit there. We don't have the stats past that. We don't have all that calculated yet. However, that's a good sign.